Dear students, welcome to EPG Pathshala. I am Professor P. Bhaskar Reddy, Department of Ancient Indian History, Culture and Archaeology, Sri Venkateswara University, Tirupati. In the present module of the paper Outlines of Indian History, now we are going to deal about the socio-religious movements up to 1905. It is known that in the history of Indian history and culture, the 19th century is the period of reforms and renaissance. In the previous module, we dealt with the various social practices of Indian society and attempts made for its prevention. It is also known fact that the British rule in India paved the way for the spread of Western education and culture. Inspired by the Western education and culture, philosophy, thought, idealism and humanism, many pioneers of India contributed in awakening the people by their reform movements. Hence, this module is designed to study the social and religious reform movements and their contributions, particularly the Brahmo Samaj, the Arya Samaj, the Theosophical Society, the Ramakrishna Mission, and the Muslim movements like the Wahabi Movement, Faraizi Movement and other movements, and their contribution in promoting the social, cultural and religious renaissance of the 19th century. With these objectives, let us start our discussion with a brief note on what causes promoted to start the Renaissance movement. In India, the social religious reforms provided the soil for growth of Indian nationalism. The spread of liberal ideas of the West provided further stimulus for the emergence of various reform movements. These reforms, as all we know, started in Bengal and soon spread in all parts of India. They were largely confined to specific regions, specific religions, and evolved in different parts of the country on different times. The pioneers like Raja Ram Mohan Rai, Dayananda Saraswati, Swami Vivekananda were the responsible for the social, cultural and religious awakening in India. They brought radical change in the thinking of people and also caused organization of variety of social activities which required the reformation of the society. With this background, let us start our discussion on what are the important religious movements that started in the 19th century, the founders, their history, their principles, their attempts in reforming the socio-cultural thinking of the modernization. Likewise, in that, the Brahmo Samaj is an important reform movement. Rai established the Brahmo Samaj at Calcutta on 20th August 1828. He is known as the father of Indian Renaissance movement. He is considered as the first modern man of India. He was a great patriot, scholar and humanist. Besides, he had excellent command over many languages including English, Sanskrit, Persian, Arabic, French, Latin, Greek and also Hebrew. He was moved by deep love for the country and worked throughout his life for the social, religious, intellectual and political regeneration of the Indians, which they are suffering with many social evils and problems. He combined the teachings of Upanishads, the Bible and the Quran in developing unity among the people of different religions. With this motto and principle, he left strongly the need of a new philosophy without sacrificing the genuine spiritual heritage of India, absorb and assimilate the modernism coming from the West. He was for introduction of Western science and technology in the educational curriculum of India. He also enlightened the journalism and also the founder of political agitation and championed the cause of the exploited Indian peasantry. Brahmo Samaj believed in universal theism based on strictly monotheistic principles. Thus, Raja Ram Mohan Rai, by establishing Brahmo Samaj, he laid a strong foundation for further progress of the Brahmo Samaj, and even after Raja Ram Mohan Rai, the activities of the Brahmo Samaj were carried out by Debendranath Tagore. Brahmo Samaj received solid organization machinery, particularly from Debendranath Tagore. He turned the Brahmo Samaj into a leading social organization, in that he established the Tattvabodhini Sabha in the year 1839. Its objective was the extensive propagation of Brahmo Dharma. Devendra emphasized on bhakti and also monoism. He rejected the rituals and ceremonies of the Samaj. As a result, he was not in a belief about the rituals and ceremonies. Devendra was the accredited leader of the Calcutta Brahmo Samaj up to the year 1866. Under Debendranath, the Samaj promoted social reforms such as widow marriage, spreading of education, developing Bengali literature through its organ, the Tattvabodhini Patrika, and opposed the efforts of Christian missionaries to convert the Hindus into Christianity. Thus, Debendranath Tagore not only promoted the Brahmo Samaj and their activities, and he strengthened the organization. After that, Keshab Brahmo Samaj of India was the offshoot of Brahmo Samajam. The next phase of Brahmo movement was dominated by Keshab Chandra Sen. He joined in the Samaj in 1857, but differences cropped between him and Debendranath Tagore after his induction. Keshab, having imbibed more of Western culture and Christian influence, advocated a much more aggressive program. Keshab therefore formed a new organization. Thus, Keshab established the Brahmo Samaj of India in November 11, 1866. The parent body henceforth came to be known as the Adi Brahmo Samaj, and his Samaj already known as Brahmo Samaj of India. Keshab, in propagation of his ideals and principles, conducted several tours to England, carried the message of Brahmo Samaj to the West. His Samaj desired complete abolition of caste distinction. He carried on intensive programs of social reform. In that, he set up schools for the promotion of educational activity and knowledge, organized famine relief whenever the famines occurred in India, and also propagated the voice for the widow remarriage. It gave a strong support to female education and also female emancipation in all activities. Thus, the Samaj emphasized on the sense of sin, spirit of repentance, and efficiency of prayer. He emphasized on universality of theism. He influenced bhakti or devotional fervor into Brahmoism. He also proclaimed this under the title of New Dispensation, Nava-Vidhan, in the year 1880. This synthesis he explained as faith in a living God. Though he propagated faith in a living God, Keshab doctrines was found unacceptable to a section of the Brahmos, and therefore they started a new Samaj known as Sadharana Brahma Samaj. Now we may shift our discussion about what is the Sadharana Samaj and their reforms. Sadharana Brahma Samaj was founded by a group of Keshab followers on May 15, 1878. The reason for this were, the first one is the refusal of their demand for the introduction of a democratic constitution in the Samaj. The second one is strong difference with their leader on the question of Adesha or divine command proposed by Keshab. Marriage of Keshab's daughter to the Prince of Kuch Bihar, allegedly in violation of the provisions of the Native Marriage Act of 1872, he himself violated the principles of the Samaj. Thus, the founders of the Sadharan Samaj framed a new constitution based on universal adult franchise. It was declared in Bengal organ of the Samaj in the year 1882. The Sadharana Brahma Samaj was about to establish a worldwide republic. The new body still exists even in the contemporary period as the most powerful and active branch of the Brahma Samaj in the present times. Besides the above offshoots, there was another offshoot in the Brahma Samaj. It was known as Prarthana Samaj. What is the Prarthana Samaj and its founders? We can look into the details. Prarthana Samaj was an offshoot of Brahmo Samaj, founded at Bombay in 1867 by Atmaram Panduranga. The Samaj suggested the worship of one Almighty, that is, one God for all worships. They were staunch theists in the Vaishnava tradition of Maharashtra, and because of that, it became, and they made famous for saints like Namadeva, Tukarama, and Ramadasa. It was another Samaj which aimed at reforming Hindu society. They concentrated mainly on social reform, interdining, intermarriage, remarriage of widows, and improvement of lot of women and the depressed classes. Thus, in a promotion of this, they established night schools for the poor, a widows' homes for the depressed, and also a depressed class mission and others of this kind for the promotion of social reform. Mahadev Govind Ranade and R.G. Bandarkar were two leaders of the Samaj. Ranade believed that religion and society could not be separated from each other. He suggested that religion and society must be reformed for successful political setup. In order to reform Hinduism, Ranade also started Widow Remarriage Association and the Deccan Educational Society. Later, in the year 1887, Ranade founded the National Social Conference with the aim of introducing social reforms throughout the country. Thus, the Prarthana Samaj became the center of many social reform activities in Western India. So far, we discussed about the Brahmo Samaj from its foundation, then its offshoots and their attempts in socio-religious reforms and their contribution to Indian culture. With this discussion, now we may shift to another Samaj, Arya Samaj. Arya Samaj was another organization which aimed to strengthen Hinduism. It was founded by Swami Dayananda Saraswati at Bombay in the year 1875. He born into a Brahmin family in Katewar, Gujarat in the year 1824. At the early age of 14, he rebelled against the practice of idol worship and he believed the Vedas were the source of true knowledge. His motto was back to the Vedas. Dayananda started the Shuddhi movement, that is to reform the all religious and practices and to bring back those Hindus who had converted into other religions to its fold. He rejected caste system, opposed the superiority of the Brahmanas, denounced untouchability and felt that the study of Vedic literature should be open to all caste, colors and creed. He also fought against inequality between men and women, child marriages, encouraged inter-caste marriages and widow marriages. This Arya Samaj organized orphanages and widow homes for also. He was also in favor of equality between sexes in all educational and social matters, both men and women. He did a commendable work during the natural calamities to get relief whenever the famines occurred in India. After Dayananda Saraswati, the motto and vision was continued. His work was continued by followers after his death in 1883. They also established the Dayananda Anglo-Vedic schools and colleges, various parts of the country. They also established gurukuls to propagate traditional ideals of education. Thus, Arya Samaj played a positive role in creating a nationalist pride in Indian tradition and culture. With these discussions on Brahmo Samaj and Arya Samaj, now we may shift our discussion on a spiritual leader, Ramakrishna Paramahamsa, and his reforms and contribution to Indian culture. See, Ramakrishna Paramahamsa was one of the greatest saints of modern India. He showed a religious bent of mind from his childhood and he was a man with a liberal outlook. He firmly believed that there was an underlying unity among all religions and that only the method of worship was different. He believed that service to man was service to God, for man was the embodiment of the God on earth. He also believed that religious salvation can be attained through renunciation, meditation and devotion. After Ramakrishna, his mission and ideology and principles were carried by Swami Vivekananda, the another spiritual ambassador of nation. Now we may look at who is Vivekananda and his role in reforming the religious activities and in carrying the Ramakrishna's principles. Narendranath Datta, also known as Swami Vivekananda, was the most illustrious disciple of Ramakrishna. He was a man of great intellect and possessed a critical and analytical mind. In the year 1886, he took the vow of sannyasa and was given the name Vivekananda. He preached Vedantic philosophy and condemned the caste system, religious rituals, ceremonies and superstitions. He also founded the Ramakrishna Mission at Beluru in Howrah, nearby Calcutta, in the year 1897. The basic principles of the mission are taken from the spiritual experience of Ramakrishna, teachings of Upanishads and the Gita, and also of the Buddha and Jesus. That itself shows that his ideas are complexing. He laid emphasis not on personal salvation but on social good and social service. The mission stood for religious and social reform based on the ancient culture of India. His emphasis was put on the essential spirit of Hinduism and not on rituals. Rendering social service was the primary aim of the Ramakrishna Mission. He also believed that serving a human being was the same as worshipping the God. Thus, the mission opened a chain of schools, hospitals, orphanages, libraries throughout the country and provided relief during the several famines, earthquakes and epidemics. Besides the above reform movements started by the indigenous elite group, there was another society which was basically started by the foreigners, and they also contributed to the promotion of the Indian culture, and they have a thought of reforming social, religious and other matters. That is none other than the Theosophical Society. Regarding the origin of the Theosophical Society, in the year 1875, a Russian spiritualist named Madam H.P. Blavatsky and an American colonial H.S. Wolcott founded the Theosophical Society in New York, America. In the year 1879, she and Wolcott came to India. Later, in the year 1886, they founded the Theosophical Society at Adayar near Madras. Here, they came into contact with Buddhism and also the Hinduism and their principles and practices. Wolcott was the president of the society till his death in 1907. After the death of Wolcott, the responsibilities of the society was taken by Annie Besant, the most important personality in Indian national movement, who contributed a lot. Regarding Annie Besant, she is the second president of the society and was described as a diamond soul. She helped the Theosophical movement to gain strength. She propagated Vedic philosophy and urged Indians to take pride in their culture. She believed that a revival and reintroduction of Indian ancient ideals and institutions could solve most of her problems. To provide Hindu religious instruction, she founded the Central Hindu School at Varanasi in the year 1898. Later, this institution developed into a Banaras Hindu University, which was one of the prestigious university of India. She rose to fame as the founder of the Home Rule Movement in the year 1916, which started by her along with Tilak, and organizer of the Home Rule Movement that can be discussed in the next phase of the topics. Besides the above, there are several movements which started by various sections of the society for similar cause. Among that, the reform movements started by Muslims also contributed for the reforms in society, religion, and also cultural activities, both prevailed among Hindus and Muslims. Now we may shift our discussion the Muslim socio-religious movements. Of the various movements started by the Muslims, the Muslim religious movements may be divided into the movements that were religious in form but political in content. Second one is the movements with emphasis on educational programs. Third one is the movements organized to combat Christian missionary activities. Then the movements concerned with theological controversies within the fold of Islam. And the movements for reorientation of religious thought under impact of Western ideas. There are Muslim movements for purely moral and spiritual uplift. With this discussion, there are many Muslim movements, but we can confine only the important movements like earlier discussion. Among the important movements, the Wahabi movement was the prominent one. It is known that of the movements religious in form but political in content, the Wahabi, the Faraizi, and the Khilafat movements were important among the movements of Muslims. Regarding the Wahabi movement, in 1821, Sayyid Ahmad of Rai Bareli, a disciple of Shah Abdul Aziz Qadri, visited Makkah and came under the influence of Wahabi ideology. On his return to India, he established a center at Patna and started a movement for the reform of Muslim religious life and restoration of their political power. His two distinguished disciples, Shah Muhammad Ismail and Maulana Abdul Hai, consolidated the religious teachings of their master in a work known as Siratul Mustaqim. Sayyid's successors published a lot of literature in the languages of Arabic, Persian, and Urdu in order to propagate the ideology of Wahabi movement. Faraizi movement was another important Muslim movement. It was started in Bengal by Haji Sariyatullah of Faridpur. It was originally an anti-British in content and found ready response in eastern Bengal. Haji suspended the observance of the Friday and Eid prayers on the ground that India had become Dar-ul-Ulum since it was under the political suzerainty of British. In his principle, he desired his disciples to lead an abstemious life and fight against the political domination and economic exploitation of the foreigners. Like him, his son Dud Mian felt that the earth belonged to God and hence no one had the right to occupy it as an inheritance or levy taxes upon it. Thus, the Faraizi movement also contributed a lot, though it is a political in character, but they tried to get awakening among all sections of the society. The Faraizi movement weakened after the death of Dud Mian in the year 1860. Besides the above two, there are several movements. Among that, Dar-ul-Ulum is the one. The founders of the Dar-ul-Ulum wanted to resuscitate classical Islam for improving the spiritual and moral condition of the Muslims. The failure of the revolt of 1857 made them to work for the upliftment of Muslims through religious education. They created political awakening by means of religious exhortations. In that, Maulana Hussain Ahmad felt that religion did not constitute any basis for separate national individuality and that the Hindus and Muslims of India were one nation. His views were propagated by Muslim religious organizations like Jamaat Ulama Hind. Nadwah-ul-Ulama was the other one, established at Lucknow in 1884. Its aim was to recast Muslim educational system, develop religious sciences, reform Muslim morals, and put an end to theological controversies within the fold of Islam. Under the guidance of Maulana Shibli, a new school of religious scholars sprang up. Originally, this movement is a religious in character. Its offshoot, Dar-ul-Musannifin of Azamgarh, has published a number of outstanding religious works. Among the other religious groups, in the later half of the 19th century, 3 religious groups appeared. They were Ahl-i-Hadith, Ahl-i-Quran, and Barelvi. But their leaders confronted themselves and theological controversies. Besides the above, which were in political and religious nature, there were other movements of Muslims which they are purely in scholastic character. Among the scholastic movements of the Muslims, the activities of Christian missionaries, the impact of Western ideas and civilization posed a challenge to Muslim religious thought. Sir Syed Ahmad Khan was the founder and first to react to this new situation. He advocated a rational approach towards religion, and he rejected taqlid and asked for a reinterpretation of Quran in the light of reason. In the year 1862, he founded the Scientific Society to translate English books on science and other subjects to Urdu. Through his initiative, he was established the Mohammedan Oriental College, which later developed into the Aligarh Muslim University, which now it is also a popular educational institution and pride institution of India. This intellectual movement is called the Aligarh Movement. There are several scholastic movements besides our, which are purely on moral and spiritual uplift. Their thought traveled to distant places in the world, including Arab countries. Thus, the socio-religious movements started by the Muslims also contributed for the social and cultural renaissance, though they were in particular to the Muslims, but in general they also attempted for awakening the people and their activities. Regarding our summary is concerned, the social religious reform movements in the 19th and 20th centuries helped removal of many evils in the society and religions, both Hindu and Muslim, and made people to think on scientific lines and modernization. With this discussion, I hope that you may understood what are the religious reform movements started in India with the inspiration of Western educational thought, and the prominent reformers, their ideologies, principles, and their contribution to Indian culture. For more details, please see the e-text and other components. Thank you.